For the state of Maine, we're going to pretend like this is a lion. So there's his eye, and there's his muzzle, and here is his mane. So Augusta, Maine, a gust of wind is blowing through the lion's mane, and that makes Augusta, Maine. For Concord, New Hampshire, we're going to remember the Hampshire because this looks like a backward H. So H for Hampshire. And you can just picture like some sort of electrical cord in a hamper for Concord, New Hampshire. For Massachusetts, we're going to say that this part that sticks out like this looks like a mouth that's going to chew something. So Massachusetts looks like it's chewing. And it's Boston, so you could say it's someone's boss chewing gum. Boston, Massachusetts. For Rhode Island, we are going to, it's so tiny that we're just going to say it in our baby voice and just say, Rhode Island, it's so tiny. So we just talk about it like it's so little. And if you want a trick to remember it, you can just say like Providence, Rhode Island, is someone named Dennis rowing to an island. And then for Hartford, Connecticut, we're going to say that Connecticut connects Rhode Island to the mainland because it hearts it so much. So Hartford is like a heart that loves Rhode Island, and even though Rhode Island has a name like an island, it's not an island because Connecticut loves it so much, it keeps it attached to the mainland. For Montpelier, Vermont, we're going to say that Vermont is shaped like a V, and you can remember it because it has two Monts in it. Montpelier, Vermont. Then we go over to New York. And I remember New York because it has two words in it and there are two parts of New York. So whenever we do it, we go New York. And see how it kind of makes a Y for York. And you can remember Albany, New York by just saying someone named Alban got a New Yorkie little dog. So New York. Then for New Jersey is kind of shaped like a J. And we can say a boy named Trenton, or Trent, got a new jersey to play sports in. Then we go to Pennsylvania, which has starts with a P. So we see this little part that sticks up, looks kind of like the beginning of a P. So we say this is Pennsylvania, plus it has the word pencil in it. So what you can do is you can picture a hairy pencil for Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. So here's a pencil that is hairy. So Harrisburg, Pennsylvania with a P. And then we go to Delaware, which this kind of looks like a D that's been squashed. And so you just remember it because it's kind of like a D, and then it has two D's in it. Dover, Delaware. For Maryland, we're going to notice that this Maryland has like a funky M shape. So a big M for Maryland, and then the capital is Annapolis. So you can remember that Anne napped in Maryland, a Maryland. So Anne napped in a Maryland. Then for Virginia, we're going to say that Virginia is shaped like a Virginia ham. So just picture the Easter table with a big Virginia ham on it. And then there is a rich man who is going to eat the Virginia ham. So Richmond, Virginia is a rich man eating a Virginia ham. Then if you know where Virginia is, then you know where West Virginia is because it's just to the west. And it also has a big W for West Virginia. And then the way you can remember the capital of Charleston is you're going to say there's a man named Charles and he's holding a ton. So this is Charles's right arm, here's his face, and here's his left arm, and here's this great big ton that he's carrying. So Charles's ton in West Virginia. For the two Carolinas, we're going to learn South Carolina first, and it looks like it's shaped like the symbol on the front of Superman's costume. So we're going to put an S for South Carolina. And then the capital is Columbia. So we're going to say there's a column of B's, Columbia, that is flying with Superman. So Superman is flying with a column of bees. Then if you can find South Carolina, you can find North Carolina because it's right above it. And for North Carolina, the capital is Raleigh. So we just really like Raleigh, North Carolina. Then we're going to also learn Washington, D.C., which is this dot right here. And it's on our map, it's sort of shaped like a capital D. But we could just say it's a dot for D.C. and it's shaped like a capital D. In real life, it's shaped more like this. But for our purposes, it's just a dot for D.C. This week, we're going to learn an acronym first, which is M for Mississippi, A for Alabama, G for Georgia, and S for South Carolina, which we already learned. So MAGS, M-A-G-S. More specifically, Georgia is shaped like a big G, so a big G for Georgia. And then Atlanta, Georgia, you remember it because it touches right on the Atlantic. So Atlanta, Georgia is on the Atlantic. Then for Florida, we're going to say this is a big sea turtle sticking its head out into the water. And her name is Flo, and she flows in the water when she swims. And you can remember the capital, Tallahassee, Florida, as being a tall lassie dog on the floor. So tall lassie floor is Tallahassee, Florida. Alabama is shaped like a great big A. You can kind of see it. It's not perfect. And then the capital is Montgomery, Alabama. So you can remember a boy named Mont chewing gum in Alabama. So Alabama. Montgomery, Alabama. Mississippi is on the Mississippi River, which is this jagged line, and the capital is Jackson. So Jackson, Mississippi is a boy named Jackson who misses his friend Pippi, like Pippi Longstocking. And then Louisiana is shaped like an L, so L for Louisiana. And then the capital is Baton Rouge, Louisiana, which you can picture a boy named Louis or a girl named Louisa who has bats on him or her. So bats on Louis or Louisa, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. For Michigan, we're going to say it looks like a mitten. So Michigan is a mitten, and Michigan also includes this portion up here. And we can remember the capital, Lansing, Michigan, by saying it's a boy named Lance who is singing. So Lance is singing, and again, Lance is singing in Michigan because he's singing again. And this can be his microphone, and this can be his face singing, and here's his mouth if you want to have a picture in your head. Then we go to Ohio, and Ohio is kind of shaped like an O for Ohio. And for Ohio, the capital is Columbus, so we picture Christopher Columbus saying, "Oh, hi." So Columbus is saying, "Ohio, oh, hi." Then for Indianapolis, it looks kind of short, like the bottom of an I, a lowercase I. So the I is for Indianapolis, Indiana, and you can picture two American Indians, two I's standing here for Indianapolis, Indiana. Then for Kentucky, we say this looks like a fried chicken leg, like Kentucky Fried Chicken. So, and it's Frankfort, Kentucky. So Frank has a fort in Kentucky. Then for Tennessee, we say it's Nashville, Tennessee. So we say a boy named Nash likes to play tennis. So Nash plays tennis in Nashville, Tennessee. And another way to remember which one is Tennessee is you draw this part as a table. So if you go across Tennessee and North Carolina, it's the top of a table. So Tennessee is the top of the table. And then the MAGS, M-A-G-S, that we had before for Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, these are the legs of the table. And then on the table, getting ready to be eaten, are the Kentucky Fried Chicken leg and the Virginia ham. This week we go up to Wisconsin, which starts with a W, so we put a W in it. And the way to remember these three in a row is there's an M for Michigan, which we already learned. Michigan's the mitten. Then you flip over the M and make a W for Wisconsin. Then you flip over the W to make another M and you get Minnesota. And the capital of Wisconsin is Madison. So you picture President Madison whisking up something to eat. So Madison whisking is Madison, Wisconsin. Then we go down to Illinois, and you can picture a face here. There's an eye, and here's a mouth, and the mouth looks like it's throwing up into Missouri because he's ill for Illinois. And what made him ill is spring in the field. So Springfield, Illinois is spring in the field made him ill. Like he's allergic to the pollen and it irritated him until he eventually threw up. Then we go over and we're going to learn an acronym to learn these 5 states in a row, which this is from a book called The Little Man in the Map. And so we go M for Minnesota, I for Iowa, M for Missouri, A for Arkansas, and then L for Louisiana, which we already learned. So this is my mall, is a man in the map. And the first one we're going to learn for this week is Iowa, which is this one right here, and the capital is Des Moines, Iowa. So you owe a day of mowing, I owe. So my mall owes a day of mowing, which is Des Moines, Iowa. And here's his face. So this is like a chef's hat. There's his face. This is his shirt. These are his pants or shorts. And then here are his legs and feet. And then you can also see he's standing in front of that table we had that was Tennessee and North Carolina, and the 4 legs, which were MAGs, Missouri, Arkansas, Georgia, South Carolina. And then on the table was Kentucky Fried Chicken and a Virginia ham. So my mall is like a chef preparing this food. And then we go to Missouri. And the capital is Jefferson City, Missouri. And we can remember that Missouri was part of the Louisiana Purchase, which Thomas Jefferson negotiated. And this is primarily where Lewis and Clark started searching new land. So Jefferson City, Missouri is Jefferson helped by Missouri. Then for Arkansas, it's kind of shaped like an A that's a little bit diagonal. And you can use these 2 little divots to connect the line that goes across the inverted V. So Little Rock, Arkansas, just picture a boy named Arkin looking at a little rock. And the little rock could be along the Mississippi River here. For Minnesota, we're going to make the M like we had last week for my mall, the guy who stands here. So the capital of Minnesota is St. Paul. So we're going to picture St. Paul drinking a miniature soda. St. Paul mini soda is St. Paul, Minnesota. Then we're going to learn an initialism for these 4 that look a lot alike and go in a row. So N for North Dakota, S for South Dakota, N for Nebraska, and K for Kansas. So for North Dakota, the capital is Bismarck, North Dakota. So we're just going to make this look like a bunch of check marks. So the N for North Dakota looks like a bunch of check marks. So Bismarck, North Dakota has a lot of marks in North Dakota. And you can also remember that it's North Dakota because it's as far north as you can go, excepting, Alaska. And if you can find North Dakota, then you can find South Dakota because it's right underneath to the south. And the capital of South Dakota is Pierre, so it could be someone eating a pear in South Dakota. And I also remember them because they go in alphabetical order. B for Bismarck is up here, and P for Pierre is lower. Then we go over to this state that's shaped like a box, and this is Wyoming. And the capital is Cheyenne. So we think of a girl named Anne who is shy, who lives in this box. So Cheyenne in Wyoming. So Cheyenne, Wyoming. And you could ask, like, why does she live in a box? Why is she shy? And that will help you remember Wyoming. You can also remember it because it's right under Montana, which we're going to learn soon. And Montana looks like a man named Monty. And here is his face, his profile, and there's his mouth, and there's his nose. And you could ask, why does Monty live in a box? And that'll help you remember Wyoming. So why? And then we go over here to Nebraska, which is starts the second half of Nisnik. And the capital of Nebraska is Lincoln. And you can remember that Lincoln loves Nebraska. And also the name Lincoln ends in an N. And so you can just go Lincoln, Nebraska, and make it all flow into one long word. All right, this time we started in Kansas, which was part of the NSNK Nisnik initialism. And for Kansas, this part over here kind of looks like a K. So you can remember K for Kansas. And then the capital is Topeka, Kansas. So you can see this little toe sticking out. So this toe is peaking at Kansas. Then we're going to go down to Oklahoma and Texas. So we put O for Oklahoma and T for Texas. And we can say over the top or over time to remember the OT. And then for Oklahoma's capital, it's Oklahoma City. So we say it's okay, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Then the Texas starts with a T, and it's kind of shaped like a slanted lowercase t, so T for Texas. Then the capital is Austin. So we could say Austin pays his taxes. Austin pays taxes, Austin, Texas. Then we're going to go over to, this week we're learning Colorado and New Mexico, but we're going to learn an acronym to remember all four of these, which is U for Utah, C for Colorado, A for Arizona, and N for New Mexico. So you can. So you can learn these four states that make up the four corners right here. So for Colorado, you find these four using the you can, and then once you know this is Colorado, then you picture, it's Denver is the capital, so you picture a den of color. So Denver, Colorado is a den that's really colorful. Then for New Mexico, the capital is Santa Fe, New Mexico. So you picture Santa flying over New Mexico. We're going to go to Utah, which we had the acronym from last week, which was UCAN for Utah, Colorado, Arizona, and New Mexico. So Utah is shaped like a big U. That's a little uneven. So U for Utah. And the capital is Salt Lake City, Utah. So there's salt in the lake for you in Utah. Like if you like to swim in salt water or lick salt water. Then we go to Arizona, and the capital is Phoenix. So you can find Arizona just if you use the acronym UCAN, where the four corners meet. So once you find the A for Arizona, then you know it's a phoenix because this part is shaped like birds' wings, like in a drawing. So the phoenix is a type of bird, a fictional bird. So Phoenix, Arizona is bird wings in Arizona. Then we're going to go over to Nevada, which you can remember it by making this an N for Nevada, or you can make a big V for Nevada. You know, it's whichever is easiest for you. And then the capital is Carson City, Nevada. So you can take a car to the city in Nevada. And you could even do like a C for car, and then the N for Nevada. So Carson City, Nevada. Then we go to California, which the acronym for these three is W for Washington, O for Oregon, and C for California. So walk. And then California is shaped like a big C, and it starts with a C. And then to remember the capital, which is Sacramento, you can say a sack of mints in California. So a sack of mints in California is Sacramento, California. Then we go to Hawaii, which is, in real life, is way out in the Pacific Ocean, but on our map it's here. And it has 2 letter H's for the capital, Honolulu, Hawaii. And you can remember it in our little map by saying it has 7 syllables and 7 little islands. Honolulu, Hawaii. Or you can say Honolulu is a lone because it's way out all by itself. For Montana, we're going to say that there's a man named Monty who lives right here. You see his profile. There's his forehead, his nose, his mouth, his eye. So Monty is Montana. And the capital is Helena, Montana. So Helen climbs a mountain. Helen, mountain, Helena, Montana. Then for Idaho, this side is like a capital I, a super tall I for Idaho. And then the capital is Boise, Idaho. So you can say the boys see Idaho. And you can say this is also a hoe, like a scoop to get weeds out of the ground. So the boys see Idaho is Boise, Idaho. Then for over here on the West Coast, there's an acronym for W for Washington, O for Oregon, and then C for California, so walk. So you can find it just by knowing that it's walk, and then the W is Washington. The capital is Olympia, Washington. So just picture George Washington carrying an Olympic torch. So Olympia, Washington is the Olympics with President Washington. Then for Oregon, it's the O of the walk, so it's in the middle. And the capital is Salem, Oregon. So remember, a sail on ore, get it before it's gone. So Salem, Oregon, the sail on ore before it's gone. Then for the last one, we go to Alaska, which is actually way up north, but on our maps it's down here. And so it's shaped kind of like a lowercase a with a really long tail. So Alaska is shaped like an A, and the capital is Juneau. So you could ask the question, do you know about Alaska? Do you know about Alaska? And then you say, well, I'll ask ya. Do you know about Alaska? I'll ask ya. Juneau, Alaska.